Welcome to What is Truth, brought to you by the Southern New Mexico Church of God in Las Cruces, New Mexico. What is Truth is a weekly program which seeks to focus our attention on the truth of God's Word. Now, with this week's lesson, here's Pastor Meyer Stahl.
Welcome to the program. Have you ever questioned Easter? Is it a holy day? Are we told in the Bible that we should celebrate Easter? Did Jesus Christ or any of the apostles, Paul or any of the apostles, ever celebrate Easter? Where did Easter come from? Have you ever questioned that? Well, our purpose today is to answer that question. Is Easter a holy day? Is it a day that Christians should observe? Now let me ask you one more question. What does rabbits laying colored eggs have to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ? Now we have two important booklets that we would like to share with you. Also a DVD of this program. The first is Easter, Is It Christian? Now, at the bottom of the booklet, it has a rabbit sitting on an egg. It says, what do rabbits laying colored eggs have to do with the resurrection of Christ? On the inside of the booklet, I'd like you to read it along with me. And it says here, why do you believe? Why do you believe the things you do? The chances are you never stop to ask yourself that question. You have been taught since childhood to accept Easter as the chief of the Christian holidays. You have supposed that it is part of the true Christian religion to observe Lent, Holy Week, Good Friday, to buy hot cross buns at the bakery, to have colored Easter eggs, to dress up and go to church Easter Sunday, perhaps to attend an Easter sunrise service. Because of the sheep instinct in humans, most of us believe a lot of things that are not true. Most of us do a lot of things that are wrong, supposing these things to be right or even sacred. Okay, that's the first booklet. The second booklet is a real shocker. The second booklet is Believe It or Not. You can believe it or not. The resurrection was not on Sunday. Okay, it says here at the bottom of the booklet, was Jesus 3 days and 3 nights in the grave, as he said in Matthew 12, verse 40? Can you figure 3 days and 3 nights between sunset, Good Friday, and Easter sunrise, Easter Sunday? We have never published an article that stirred more comment and enthusiastic endorsement than this article. For those free booklets, call the number on the screen. We'll repeat it at the end of the program. Please send away for these free booklets. We will have a free CD of this program. Let's go to the Bible. Let's go to Acts chapter 12, verse 4. Acts 12 in verse 4 says, so, when he, that is Herod, had arrested him, that is Simon Peter, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers to keep him, intending to bring him before the people after Passover. Now, if you look at your King James Version, it will use the word Easter. Now, this word is corrected Easter is a mistranslation. This word is corrected. It is Pascha in Greek. And everywhere you see the word Pascha, it is always Passover. So the New King James has corrected this word. Easter is not in the Bible. Not in the Bible at all. Let's go to Acts chapter 18. Acts chapter 18, and let's look in verse 19. Acts 18, verse 19. And here it says, "So Paul remained a good while. Then he took leave of the brethren and sailed for Syria, and Priscilla and Aquila were with him. He had his hair cut off at Caesarea, for he had taken a vow. And there he came to Ephesus and left them there. But he himself entered the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews." So he entered the synagogue on the Sabbath. "And when they asked him to stay a longer time with them, he did not consent." He wouldn't consent to it, but took leave of them, saying, "I must by all means keep this coming feast in Jerusalem." Now this feast was the feast of the Passover. "But I will return again to you, God willing." And he sailed from Ephesus. So let's go now back to Matthew chapter 26. Matthew 26, and let's see if Jesus Christ, what holy day Jesus Christ kept. Did Jesus Christ ever keep? Did he ever keep Easter? Let's look. Matthew chapter 26, and we'll look in verse 1. And here we are. "Now it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, that he said to his disciples, 'You know that after 2 days is the Passover.'" Well, there's 2 more days for the Passover to come. "And the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified." He knew the day of his death, and he knew that he would have to die on the Passover day. He knew that. Let's go now to Mark chapter 14. Mark chapter 14, and let's look at verse 1. Matthew 14, and we're looking at verse 1. "After 2 days, it was the Passover." Same story. "And the feast of unleavened bread." What is that? The Passover comes out on the 14th day of the first month. On the 15th day starts another feast, and it's called the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So there's 7 days of unleavened bread. We're going to show it to you very soon. "And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by trickery and put him to death. But they said, 'Not during the feast.'" What feast are they talking about? They're talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's what they're talking about. We're going to explain it in a moment. "Lest there be an uproar of the people." We're going back to Leviticus chapter 23, where we'll find out what feast this is talking about. We have to have understanding about this. Now, we're in Leviticus chapter 23, and we'll start in verse 3. "6 days shall work be done." But notice this, "but the 7th day," not a 7th day, the 7th day, "is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work on it. It is the Sabbath of the Lord." It belongs to the Lord. It's the Lord's Sabbath. not the Jewish Sabbath, not the Sabbath of the Hebrews, and not the Sabbath of the Israelites. It's the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. These are the feasts of the Lord, holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at their appointed times. On the 14th day of the first month at twilight, that's about sundown, is the Lord's Passover. This is the day Jesus Christ was crucified. This is the day that the Passover lamb was killed. And on the 15th day, that's the very next day of the same month, is the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. Now they couldn't let him stay up on that stake on this first day, because that would have been a holy day. He had to come down off the stake. That's why they broke the legs of the other two on either side of him. So this is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And it says here on verse 8, at the end of verse 8, it says, the seventh day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. So there were 7 days of unleavened bread, which followed the Passover day. So that makes it a total of 8 days. All right, let's go now to Luke chapter 22. With that understanding, we can go now to Luke chapter 22, and we'll look in verse 1. Luke 22, verse 1 says, Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover. Now this is kind of misleading, because the Jews call this whole holy day, they call the whole holy day Passover. They call it Passover. All right? So this is the early part of the day of Passover. And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Okay? All right, now let's go on to John chapter 13. John chapter 13, and we'll look in verse 1. John 13, verse 1. Now here we are at the very beginning, now before the feast of the Passover. So this is before Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper being ended, the devil already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. All right, and Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hand, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper, laid aside his garments, took a towel, and girded himself. After that, he poured water in a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Now, we're going to come right back to verse 6. Please don't go away. This is important news. We'll be right back.
Hey, don't touch that dial, because you're watching the only independent TV station here in Las Cruces, the Las Cruces channel. Keep watching.
Welcome to La Buena Vida Women's Club, located away from the crowds but close to home. Come in throughout the day for Jazzercise, the world's dance fitness leader for nearly 40 years. Treat yourself to a relaxing massage, or unwind in the lounge area or outside on the balcony with friends. La Buena Vida Women's Club, located and designed with women in mind. For information, call Diane at 650-9721.
If you're looking for a new pet that you can cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are full of healthy, loyal, fun, loving pets, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, you can visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Celebrate, celebrate, Fiesta Motors.
Come and see us today and discover why our service is second to none. In business for over 17 years, we have the right car for you. When you buy a vehicle from Fiesta Motors, we do everything possible to ensure your satisfaction. Located at the corner of El Paseo and Main. See you there.
Celebrate, Fiesta Motors. We're buying a car. It's always a celebration.
Welcome back to the program. Okay, we're still in John, and we're still looking at in John chapter 14, and here, John 13, John 13, and we're here in verse 8. Let's look at it. Verse 8, Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." And Jesus answered, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." So Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and head. I'll take a bath." And Jesus said to him, "He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean, and you are all clean. You are clean, but not all of you." For he knew who would betray him. Therefore he said, "You are not all clean." So he instituted the foot washing ceremony on the Passover day. What else did he institute on the Passover day? Let's go back to Matthew 26. Matthew 26, and we'll look at verse 26. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread. They were eating the lamb that they had sacrificed, and broke it, and gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." He didn't tear flesh off his arms or legs. He gave them bread. He said, "This represents my body." Then he took the cup and gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. For this represents the blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you." He's going to drink it with us in my Father's kingdom. Wow, this is amazing, amazing news. Now, where did Easter, what does Easter have to do? Where did Easter come from? Well, in 321 AD, this is 321 years after Christ, Emperor Constantine convened the Council of Laodicea. You can look it up in the Catholic Encyclopedia. He convened the Council of Laodicea in 321 AD. And he said, from henceforth, from now on, Christians will not keep the Jewish Passover, but will keep Easter. He was the one who changed Passover, which Jesus Christ kept, the disciples kept, and there is not one word in the entire Old or New Testament about a change from Passover to Easter. Not one word. Now I have here a check. I'd like to show it to you. It's old. I'm carrying it around in my wallet, and I would like to show it to you. It's made out for $5,000. Take a look at it. Right here, $5,000, and pay to the order of. I'll put your name in it, and I will sign it at the bottom. I'll put my signature right here at the bottom. If you could show me in your King James Bible or your New King James Bible that Passover is no longer to be kept by Christians, but Christians are now told must keep Easter instead of Passover. You can have this check for $5,000. It's old, it's tattered, I carry it in my wallet. I'm ready to give it to anyone at all, and sign it over if you can find that in your Bible. So why are we keeping a day that's not even written in the Bible about? Why are we keeping that day? Okay. Constantine was a sun worshiper. He worshipped the sun. And one of the goddesses that he worshipped was called Astarte or Asherah. And Easter, you can read it. You can read it with me right here. Right here is some proof. Easter, as Hislop wrote the Babylon, wrote the two Babylons. The two Babylons bears its Chaldean origin on its very forehead. Easter is nothing else than Astarte. It was one of the goddesses, one of the titles of Beltis, the Queen of Heaven, whose name, as pronounced by the people of Nineveh, was evidently identical with that now in common use in this country. The ancient gods of the pagans had many different names. While this goddess was called Astarte, or also Ishtar. Ishtar sounds like Easter, doesn't it? In Babylon. It appears on Assyrian monuments found by Layard in excavations at Nineveh as Ishtar. Now, the H was silent, so it was Easter. It was sounded just like Easter. Layard's Nineveh and Babylon, you can read it for yourself on page 629. Both were pronounced Easter. This is where Easter came from. Likewise, Beltis or Bel, referred to in the Old Testament, also was called Molech. They sacrificed children to Molech. They built a statue of Molech with outstretched arms that they would build a fire under. And they would take newborn babies and put them on the arms of Molech and burn them up as a sacrifice to Molech. It was for sacrificing to Molech. You can read it for yourselves in 1 Kings chapter 11, 1 to 11. See all these ones? It's easy to remember. 1 Kings 11, verse 1 to 11. Especially verse 7, where Molech is called an abomination. God calls this holiday an abomination, and other pagan gods that the eternal, that's God, condemned Solomon. He condemned Solomon and rended away the kingdom of Israel from his son. In the ancient Chaldean idolatrous sun worship, this is where it comes from. It comes from the worship of the sun, which Emperor Constantine was a sun worshiper. He was the one who made all Christianity to observe Easter. Baal was the sun god, Astarte, his consort or wife, and Astarte is the same as Ishtar, or the English Easter. Says Hislop, who wrote the booklet, The Two Babylons, the festival of which we read in church history under the name of Easter in the 3rd or 4th centuries. That's why you can't find it in the Bible. That's why it's not in the Bible. It was many, many years after the Bible was completed. was quite a different festival from that now observed in the Romish and Protestant church, and at that time was not known by any such name as Easter. It was called Passover. You will find Passover in the Bible. You will find Passover to be God's holy day, not Easter. Easter is not God's holy day, and was very early observed by Christians. So Gentile Christians kept Passover. That festival agreed originally with the time of the Jewish Passover when Christ was crucified. That festival was not idolatrous and was preceded by no Lent. You won't find the word Lent in the Bible except loaning something to someone, and that's the only way you'll find it in the Bible. So to sum it all up, we never question our parents. We never question our grandparents. We very seldom ever talk to a minister, a priest, a teacher, and ask him about Easter. Why are we celebrating this idolatrous holiday? It's not a holy day. It's a holiday. Why are we celebrating it? And this is where the Easter bunny and Easter eggs come from. It is a form of worship of this goddess of fertility. That's why eggs are a symbol of fertility. Rabbits are a symbol of fertility. And that's why Easter has these symbols along with it, because that's what people were worshiping. They were worshiping the goddess of fertility. Well, we have an interactive Bible study that we're happy to have you come and join us. It's every Saturday at 5245 Cortez. It's right across from Oñate High School on the other side of Route 70. Why don't you come and visit with us every Saturday? Bring your Bible, a notebook, a pen. That's all you need. Bring your questions. We provide free counseling. We'd be happy to counsel with you. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those questions from the Bible. Well, we're coming to the end of the program now. And until next time, this is Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God saying goodbye, my friends.
You have been listening to What is Truth with Pastor Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God, located in Las Cruces, New Mexico. For copies of today's lesson or for more information, call area code 575-650-7359. That's 575-650-7359. Join us next week at this same time for another edition of What is Truth? Until next week, we wish you God's richest blessings.